I woke up at 2 o'clock in the morning, and something was terribly wrong. My chest felt hot and painful, like someone had filled my ribs with burning acid. I tried to breathe, but my lungs wouldn't listen. My heart wouldn't beat right. It skipped, stuttered, tripped like it forgot how to work. It felt like a broken drum making the wrong sound again and again. I knew something was wrong with my pacemaker, the little machine inside my body that keeps my heart alive. My pacemaker had been turned off. Someone had stopped it on purpose. And the scariest part? The person who did it was asleep only one room away. It was my sister, Callista. She always said my heart problem was dramatic and silly. She told everyone I was just pretending to be sick for attention. When I got my pacemaker 6 months ago, she rolled her eyes. She told my mother that I only wanted sympathy. She even said I hoped Grandpa would leave me money in his will because I looked weak and sick. My family believed her, like they always did. So when I almost died that night and Callista came running into the hospital crying, saying she pressed the wrong button by mistake, everyone hugged her, comforted her, and believed her. Nobody asked me if my chest still hurt. Nobody asked if I was scared or if I needed anything. No one looked at me. Everyone looked at her tears instead. But Callista didn't know one thing. She didn't know that my sleep tracking app was recording everything. The app recorded sound automatically when I slept. It recorded footsteps. It recorded whispers. It recorded breathing. It recorded her standing over my bed in the dark. 1 week later, when Grandpa's will was read to the family, a heart doctor pressed play. Everyone listened to the recording. Have you ever seen a room full of people discover the truth all at once? Have you ever watched their faces change, like ice melting, right when they realize someone is not who they thought? Black Circle. My name is Marilla Martin. Black Circle. I am 38 years old. Black Circle. I build and work with computer software. Black Circle. I worked for 15 years, and I'm quietly proud of myself. And until 1 week ago, I thought the worst pain my family ever gave me was treating me like I was invisible. But I was wrong. This story didn't start the night I almost died. It started many years before that. Let me tell you slowly, clearly, gently, like pages turning in a long book. I was always the girl people forgot. Not hated, just unseen like a shadow in sunlight. I paid for college myself. I worked 2 jobs. I studied at night when everyone else slept. My parents didn't help pay for school because they were saving their money for Callista's dream wedding. They didn't save for me. They didn't plan for me. Just for her. The funny part? That wedding never even happened. When I grew up, I got a good job. I earned 6 figures, which means a lot of money. But my family didn't understand computers or electronics or anything I did. So they just waved their hands and said, "Oh, Marilla works with computers." Something like that. They never asked more. They didn't care enough to know. I didn't correct them. I didn't brag or explain. I learned early that Callista felt sad when I succeeded. And in my house, making Callista sad was the worst thing anyone could do. My mom had a sentence she used like a rule in a book. "You're stronger, Marilla. Callista needs us more." I heard that sentence all my life. I heard it when Callista stole my 8th grade science project and said it was hers. I heard it when she crashed my first car and blamed the brakes. I heard it when she started dating a boy I liked for months, and Mom told me I must be happy for her, because Callista deserved happiness more than me. Callista was always the fragile one, the pretty one, the one who needed protecting, even though the world always treated her softly. I was the tough one, the quiet one, the one who survived alone. 6 months ago, the doctor told me something serious. My heartbeat wasn't safe. It needed help. I needed a pacemaker to keep me alive. When I told my family, did you know Mom's first response? Not, "Are you okay?" Not, "We love you, we'll help you." She asked, "Can you do the surgery after Callista's birthday trip to Cancun?" They cared more about a vacation than my heart. Callista didn't show kindness or worry like sisters in movies do. She asked technical questions instead. How does the pacemaker work? Is it monitored? Can someone control it from a phone? What app does it use? I thought she was curious. I thought she was being involved. But she wasn't just curious, she was learning. My heart doctor told me to use a sleep tracking app to monitor my breathing. The app had a sound recorder built in. It picked up noises while I slept. It was supposed to catch snoring or breathing problems. I never thought it would catch attempted murder. About 1 month before everything fell apart, I was tired after a heart appointment. My vision was blurry. I couldn't open my pacemaker app, so I asked Callista to help. She watched me type my password. I told her I used the same password for all my medical apps. It was easier for me to remember. I didn't know I had handed her the key to my heart. She looked at my phone a bit too long. Her eyes held a spark, a quiet, sharp kind of curiosity. But I didn't notice. Sisters help each other, I thought. It felt normal. Safe. Familiar. Then Grandpa died. Everything changed like sudden thunder. Grandpa Zephyr was different. He remembered my graduation, even when my parents forgot to show up. He asked about my work, my projects, my new software designs. He cared how I was doing. He checked in on me. A week before he died, he said something strange. "I tested your sister, Marilla. She failed. You'll understand soon." I didn't know what he meant, but his voice sounded like a closed door with a secret behind it. At his funeral, Callista behaved oddly. Her hands shook as she checked her phone over and over. She whispered to Daxton, her boyfriend, like wind rushing in the dark. When someone mentioned the will reading, her face turned pale like chalk. Then she smiled too quickly. A pretend smile. Fake flowers. Plastic sweetness. The family stayed at Grandpa's house the night before the will. His smart home system still worked, door sensors, automatic logs, timestamps. We didn't think about it. We brushed our teeth, said goodnight, and slept. Or so I thought. I put my sleep app on like always. It records sound when I'm sleeping, but I barely remember it. Later that night, Callista waited, quiet as a cat awake in the dark. She wasn't sleeping. She had been watching for 3 months. And that night watching wasn't enough anymore. At 2 a.m., my world broke. I woke up choking on nothing. My heart was trying to beat but failing, shaking like a piano played wrong. Heat spread through my ribs like liquid fire. I tried to sit up, but the room spun like I was underwater. I knew I was dying. And worst of all, I felt calm. Like the world accepted it already. My pacemaker, the little machine keeping me alive, had been turned off. I could feel the emptiness where its steady beat should be. My heart was like a broken engine sputtering. I grabbed my phone without thinking. I don't remember calling 911. I only remember lying on the floor, staring at the ceiling fan turning slowly, thinking it wasn't fair to die in the same house where I spent my whole childhood invisible. The paramedics came. My family stood in the hallway, sleepy and annoyed like I interrupted a dream. They looked confused, almost bothered. Callista stood near the wall, eyes wide but strangely calm, pretending to be worried. Doctors moved with quick hands and serious voices. They fixed my heart rhythm. They checked the pacemaker carefully. Then the heart doctor spoke to me softly behind a curtain. "This wasn't an accident. Someone turned your pacemaker off from your medical app." My blood ran cold. I said I didn't touch it. She looked at me, eyes sad and heavy. "Someone else used your phone. If you slept 20 more minutes, you would not have woken up." Before I could answer, Callista burst into the room crying loudly. She said she accidentally pressed something while trying to help. She said she loved me. She cried huge dramatic tears. And everyone, my mother, my father, my uncle, wrapped their arms around her. They comforted her like she was the victim. Like she was hurt. Like she was the one who almost died. No one checked on me. No one held my hand. Not even once. 2 days later my phone rang. A man named Arinder from the Pacemaker company spoke firmly. He said someone had been using my account for 3 months, not one night. 3 months of logging in. 3 months of watching my heart rhythm. 3 months of studying how my pacemaker worked. Who would do that? I didn't have to ask. My hands shook as I opened my sleep tracking app from that night. The night my pacemaker stopped. The app had recorded everything. Footsteps. Breathing. Whispering. A voice. Callista's voice. I scrolled to 2 o'clock in the morning and pressed play on my phone. At first, I heard a soft creaking sound. It was my bedroom door opening. It creaked just a little like it always did, but that night it sounded scary. Then I heard footsteps. Quiet, soft footsteps. They moved across the wooden floor toward my bed. Slow, careful steps like someone didn't want to be heard. Then I heard a voice. My sister's voice. Soft, almost like a whisper, as if she didn't want me to wake up. She said, "Just don't wake up, Marilla. Just don't wake up. Then everything will finally be mine." I could not believe it. I played the recording again. And again. 17 times. Each time I listened, her whisper cut into me. Each time, I felt the fear rise higher in my chest. "Just don't wake up, Marilla. Just don't wake up. Then everything will finally be mine." This was not an accident. This was not a mistake. This was my sister standing over my bed in the dark, hoping I would die. I felt sick thinking about it. That night, I called Arinder. He was someone I trusted, someone smart with technology. I asked him to help me understand everything the data was showing. Arinder said yes. We planned to review all the information the next morning over a video call. Even then, I think he knew this was not a small problem. He knew this was serious. This was attempted murder. The next morning, Irinder and I went through all the data slowly. He explained everything to me in a calm voice. The proof was very clear. My sleep tracking app showed that my bedroom door had opened at exactly 2 a.m. The smart home sensors, which Grandpa Zephyr had installed years ago, showed the exact same time. We could hear Callista's footsteps in the sound recording. Soft but clear, walking across the floor toward my bed. Then her whispered words. "Just don't wake up, Marilla. Just don't wake up. Then everything will finally be mine." Then we heard fingers tapping on a phone screen. The Pacemaker company logs showed that at 2 a.m., someone accessed my pacemaker monitoring app and turned off the device that helps keep my heart beating. And the scary part? The command came from my own phone. The same phone that had been sitting on my nightstand while I slept. Callista had picked up my phone. She had typed in my password. She had turned off the device that keeps me alive. And that was not all. Irinder showed me something even worse. He showed me the access history from the Pacemaker portal. For 3 months, someone had been logging into my account, sometimes every day. The devices they used were not mine. They were not my phone. They were not my computer. Someone had been watching me, studying my heart, my heartbeat, my pacemaker. They had been learning how my pacemaker worked and what would happen if it stopped. Irinder looked at me and said quietly, "Miss Martin, this is not a sudden decision. This is planning. Someone thought about this. Someone prepared for this." I knew who it was. I knew it was Callista. But I still did not understand why. Why did she start watching me 3 months ago? What made her want to hurt me so badly? The answer came from someone I had not expected. A friend from college, Leora, worked at a bank. We had not talked in years. But I reached out and explained I needed help learning about someone's financial situation. She agreed to help me. What she told me about Callista made everything suddenly make sense. My sister was drowning in money problems. She had credit cards maxed out across 5 accounts. She had personal loans she could not pay back. Debt collectors were calling her every day. The total amount she owed was at least $85,000, maybe more. Her boyfriend Daxton, the flashy one who always talked about investments, had been pressuring her. He wanted her to put money into his business plan. But she didn't have the money. She was desperate. She needed money badly. Then Leora told me something else. 2 weeks before Grandpa Zephyr died, Callista had been seen leaving his study. She looked pale. She looked scared. Leora's mother had noticed her running out of the house. Everyone thought she was upset about Grandpa's health. But now I understand. She had probably overheard Grandpa talking to his lawyer about the will. She had probably learned she was getting nothing. The pieces came together with a sick feeling in my stomach. Callista had started monitoring my health data 3 months ago because she was angry and curious. She saw my pacemaker and my heart as a weakness. Something she had never seen in me before. And that fascinated her in a way I did not want to fully understand. Then, 2 weeks before Grandpa Zephyr died, she found out she was cut out of the will. The scary fantasy she had in her head became urgent. If I died before the will was read, the estate might be divided differently. There might be delays, problems, and opportunities for her to get money she wanted. The 3 months of watching me had given her knowledge. The will gave her motivation. The password I gave her the final key. I was still trying to process all of this when my phone rang. The number was unfamiliar. But the voice on the other end made my heart stop. It was Aunt Aloan, my mother's younger sister. She had always been quiet at family gatherings. She never quite fit in with the rest of the family. I liked her, but we rarely spoke. "Marilla," she said, her voice trembling. "I need to talk to you. I should have said something years ago. I've been a coward and I'm so sorry." We met at a coffee shop the next day. Aloan looked like she had not slept for days. She told me she had been carrying guilt for decades. She had watched Callista hurt me over and over. The lies. The stolen credit for my accomplishments. The boyfriends Callista had taken from me, just to prove she could. And Aloan had stayed quiet. "Your mother always defended her," Aloan said quietly. "And I was afraid I would be cut off from the family. But after what happened this week, I cannot stay silent anymore." She revealed 2 things that changed everything. First, she told me about a conversation she had with Grandpa Zephyr 2 years ago. He had given Callista $50,000 as a test. He said it was to help Mom pay medical bills. But really, he wanted to see what Callista would do with it. She bought a car, designer bags, a trip to Europe. She never gave Mom a single dollar. Grandpa had been watching. He rewrote his will after seeing this. The second thing Aloan told me was far worse. She asked, "Do you remember when your car brakes failed, Sean? You were 28. You almost died on the highway." I remembered. The mechanic had said the brake line was corroded, probably just wear and tear. "Bad luck." Aloan continued, whispering, "The day before it happened, I saw Callista in the garage. She was under your car with a flashlight. When she noticed me, she jumped and said she dropped an earring. I believed her then. But now, after this week, I cannot stop thinking about it. What if the pacemaker wasn't the first time she tried to hurt you?" I sat in silence. 10 years of denial felt like it was crashing down on me. My sister had tried to hurt me before, and I had never known. That night I made a decision. I could not go to my family. They would protect Callista like they always did. They would call me paranoid, jealous, unstable. They would sacrifice me to save the golden child. But the reading was in 3 days. Everyone would be there. The family lawyer would be there. Callista would not be able to control the story this time. I contacted the estate lawyer and asked permission to present information after the will was read. He agreed. I asked Arinder if he would join via video call as a technical expert. He said yes. I asked Aunt Aloan if she would come and share what she had seen. She was scared, but she said yes. The trap was ready. The morning of the will reading came. Callista walked in, confident and shiny. Red lipstick, cream blazer, gold jewelry. She looked like she already owned everything in the house. She did not notice me watching her. She did not notice my laptop with Arinder ready. She did not notice Aunt Aloan sitting quietly in the corner, ready to speak. At exactly 10 o'clock, the lawyer called the room to order. 14 members of the Martin family sat in Zephyr's living room, arranged in a semicircle around the big mahogany desk where family business had been conducted for generations. Callista sat in the front, legs crossed, posture perfect, radiating confidence. She was already thinking about all the things she would buy with her inheritance. I sat near the back, laptop open, connected to Arinder. Aunt Aloan sat in the far corner, so quiet most people hadn't even noticed her. Cashin Dreyer, the lawyer, a stern man in his 60s, cleared his throat. "Zephyr left a video message," he said. "It will be played before the reading." Everyone looked surprised. Except me. I had suspected Grandpa might do this. He always believed people should speak for themselves, even from beyond the grave. The television flickered on. Zephyr appeared on the screen. His face was weathered, kind, serious. His eyes were sharp and intelligent. "If you are watching this," he said, "I am gone. There are things this family needs to hear. Things I should have said while alive. But I was too cowardly, too hopeful that people might change." He paused, and his gaze seemed to look at Callista, even through the screen. 2 years ago, I gave Callista $50,000. I told her to use it to help her mother pay medical bills. She promised she would. Zephyr's jaw tightened. She bought a BMW. Designer bags. A trip to Europe. She never gave her mother a single dollar. I received calls from debt collectors looking for my own daughter, because Callista couldn't be bothered to keep her word. The room shifted. I heard my mother breathe sharply. Callista's confident smile started to crack. Zephyr continued, his voice heavier now. "But that is not the worst. 6 months before my death, $30,000 were transferred from my savings account without my knowledge. The bank traced it to a computer in this house. I know exactly who took it." Callista began to cry. These were not sad tears. They were panicked, cornered, desperate tears. Tears of someone watching their life unravel in real time. "You might wonder why I didn't call the police," Zephyr said. "I am a foolish old man who wanted to believe she might still have a conscience buried somewhere inside her. I gave her 6 months to confess. 6 months to come to me and tell the truth." The room fell silent. I watched her at every Sunday dinner, hoping she would finally tell the truth about what she had done. But she never did. Week after week, she looked me in the eye, kissed my cheek, told me she loved me, and acted like nothing was wrong. Every single week, it was the same. That's when I realized this wasn't about money. This wasn't about what she could get from Grandpa Zephyr or from the family. No, this was about who she really was deep inside. This was about her true nature. I decided right then that I had to do something. I rewrote my will that very same week. The video ended, and the room went completely silent. Everyone just froze. My mother was staring at Callista with a look I had never seen before. It was a mix of horror and a kind of dawning realization, like she was finally understanding what had been happening all these years. But I knew the worst part hadn't come yet. I could feel it in the air. The lawyer, who had been quietly watching the scene unfold, cleared his throat and turned to me. Miss Marilla Martin has requested permission to present additional information that is important to these proceedings, he said. I stood up. My hands were steady, but my heart was pounding in my chest so hard it felt like it might jump out. I connected my laptop to the big television screen in the room and started a video call with Arinder, the pacemaker technician. His calm, professional face appeared on the screen, and I felt a little bit of relief seeing someone who understood what had happened. On the night before this reading, I said, looking around the room so everyone could hear me, someone came into my bedroom at 2:13 in the morning and used my own phone to turn off my pacemaker. That's the device that keeps my heart beating. If my heart hadn't woken me in time, I would have died in my sleep. I shared my screen so everyone could see the pacemaker logs. Arinder explained everything clearly. The logs showed that someone had been sneaking into my medical records for 3 months. There were timestamps that showed regular intrusions into my cardiac data. And then, on the night of the attack, there was the exact moment the pacemaker was disabled. The manufacturer's records confirmed that this command came from Miss Martin's phone, which had been on her nightstand while she slept. Then I played the recording from my sleep tracking app. Everyone in the room could hear it. First, there was the creak of my bedroom door opening. Then soft footsteps crossed the floor. And finally, Callista's voice, barely above a whisper, but unmistakable. Just don't wake up, Marilla. Just don't wake up. Then everything will finally be mine. Uncle Fenric stumbled out of his chair and vomited into the trash can by the door. My mother went completely gray, drained of all colors. My father gripped the armrest of his chair, so tightly his knuckles turned white. Callista screamed, "That's fake. She's manipulating it. I've always been jealous of her. She's making this up to steal my inheritance." Arinder, still calm and professional, said, "I am a certified technician with the device manufacturer. These logs are maintained on secured servers. They cannot be altered by patients or family members. The timestamps match perfectly with the smart home door sensor data from this house. This evidence would hold up in any court of law." The room thought the worst was over. But it wasn't. Aunt Aloan rose slowly from her corner seat. Her voice shook, but she didn't break. "There's something else I should have said 10 years ago," she said, and all eyes turned to her. She told the story of when I was 28. My car brakes had failed on the highway, and I had spun across 3 lanes of traffic before hitting the median barrier. I walked away with bruises and a totaled car. The mechanic said it was just wear and tear, bad luck. Case closed. But the day before that accident, Aloan had come home early. She saw Callista crouched beside my car in the garage, with a flashlight in her hand. When she noticed Aloan, she jumped up and said she had dropped an earring. Aloan wanted to believe her. She wanted to trust her sister. But she never forgot the way Callista looked at her that day, like she had been caught doing something terrible. Aloan turned to look directly at Callista. "Was the pacemaker really the first time you tried to hurt your sister, or just the first time you got caught?" Callista's face crumbled completely. She opened her mouth to respond, but no words came out. She didn't answer, and she didn't deny it. The silence in the room was heavier than any confession could have been. In that silence, everyone could see the truth. My mother made a sound that wasn't quite human. The broken noise of a woman realizing she had spent 34 years protecting someone who could hurt others. The lawyer cleared his throat and read Grandpa Zephyr's will. All his money, approximately $400,000, was left to me. Callista's inheritance was only the $50,000 she had already received and squandered 2 years ago. Zephyr had written that it was all she would ever deserve from him. There was a final clause in the will. If Callista contested the will, Zephyr authorized his executor to release all evidence of her financial misconduct to the district attorney. Callista tried to run for the door, but the lawyer stopped her firmly. "Miss Callista, I strongly recommend you remain here. Based on what has been presented today, these allegations are serious criminal matters. I advise Miss Marilla Martin to take this evidence to law enforcement immediately." I nodded. "I've already been in contact with the district attorney's office. They are expecting my full report tomorrow morning," I said. Callista looked around the room desperately, searching for someone to defend her. My mother wouldn't meet her eyes. My father had already walked out. The aunts and uncles were frozen, seeing her clearly for the first time in their lives. For 34 years, Callista had never stood alone. Now she understood what I had felt my entire life. But the difference was that I didn't deserve it, she did. The weeks after the will reading moved slowly, like time itself needed to catch its breath. The district attorney's office reviewed all my evidence carefully. They interviewed Arinder, examined the pacemaker logs, listened to the sleep app recording, and took statements from Aunt Aloan and several other family members who had seen Callista's breakdown. The prosecutor, a woman named Isolde Varon in her 50s, explained the legal reality to me with honesty. She said that proving intent to kill beyond reasonable doubt would be difficult. Callista could claim she didn't understand what the app buttons did. She could say she panicked and made a terrible mistake. But the evidence of premeditation was strong. 3 months of monitoring, the whispered words on the recording, and a pattern of dangerous behavior stretching back a decade. Isolde offered Callista a plea deal. She could plead guilty to reckless endangerment, a serious felony. She would accept 3 years of probation, complete 300 hours of community service, undergo mandatory psychiatric evaluation, and agree to a permanent restraining order prohibiting any contact with me for the rest of her life. If she violated any terms, she would face immediate imprisonment for the financial exploitation of Grandpa Zephyr. The car incident from 10 years ago couldn't be prosecuted because the statute of limitations had expired. But it was entered into the record as evidence of a pattern of dangerous behavior, which influenced the sentencing recommendation. Faced with all the evidence and the real possibility of prison, Callista accepted the plea deal. She stood before a judge and pleaded guilty. It became public record. Callista Martin was a convicted felon. But the legal consequences were only the beginning. Daxton disappeared within 48 hours of the will reading. He had wanted access to family money, not a convicted criminal with a psychiatric evaluation requirement. Callista's carefully curated social media went dark after former friends shared the story. Colleagues at her marketing firm quietly distanced themselves, and she was laid off within 2 months. Relatives stopped including her in family group chats, holiday plans, and Sunday dinners. No one destroyed Callista. No one needed to. Every consequence flowed naturally from her own choices. The house of cards she had built over 34 years collapsed under the weight of truth, finally spoken aloud. She moved to a small apartment in another state and took a retail job, living in anonymity. The golden child became invisible, experiencing for the first time the erasure I had lived with my entire life. 3 weeks after the will reading, my mother appeared at my apartment door without warning. She didn't fall to her knees or sob dramatically. She just stood there looking 10 years older than she had a month ago. Her hands trembled at her sides. "I don't know where to begin," she said quietly. "I don't know if there are words for what I did to you. Not just recently, but your whole life." I let her speak. She told me every time I tried to tell her something was wrong, every time she chose Callista over me, and every time she made excuses for her. Her voice cracked as she admitted she had failed me completely. I was quiet for a long moment. Then I spoke the truth I had held inside for 38 years. "I don't need you to make it right, Mom. I needed you to protect me, and you didn't. I needed you to see me, and you didn't. I needed you to believe me, and you didn't," I said. She flinched but didn't look away. I continued, "I'm not saying this to hurt you. I'm saying it because it's true. For once in my life, someone in this family is going to hear the truth without trying to soften it or explain it away. You can call me once a week. We can have lunch once a month. But if you ever try to make excuses for Callista, suggest I should forgive her, or imply that I'm being too hard on her, we're done permanently. Do you understand?" She whispered, "I understand." She didn't argue or minimize. For the first time in my memory, my mother simply listened. It wasn't forgiveness. It wasn't reconciliation. It was a door left slightly open, with me holding the key. After the estate was settled, I inherited approximately $400,000 from Grandpa Zephyr. The first thing I did was donate $50,000 to establish the Zephyr Martin Heart Fund, which helps people who can't afford pacemakers. The first grant went to a 57-year-old woman who needed surgery but couldn't pay for it. Zephyr would have loved that. I bought a small house with a garden in a quiet neighborhood. I had dreamed of having a garden for years, but never believed I deserved one. I planted roses along the fence, my grandmother's favorite. Aunt Aloan became a regular visitor, and we had dinner together every Sunday. This time, our tradition was built on honesty instead of obligation. She became the family I chose, and that mattered more than blood ever could. Irinder, the pacemaker technician, checks in occasionally. We've developed an unexpected friendship. He understands medical trauma in a way few people do. 6 months after everything happened, I received a text from an unknown number. It said, "I'm sorry. I was desperate. I didn't know what else to do. I hope someday you can understand." It was from Callista. I read it twice, then blocked the number without responding. Not from hate, not from revenge, but from understanding that some apologies aren't about making amends. Callista wasn't sorry for what she did. She was sorry she got caught, and I refused to be the person who absolves her of that. Some doors need to stay closed, not as punishment, but as protection. People ask me sometimes if I've forgiven my sister. I tell them the truth. Forgiveness isn't about Callista. It's about me. It's about choosing not to carry the weight of her choices for the rest of my life. Every morning now, I look in the mirror and see the small scar on my chest, the place where my heart almost stopped beating forever. For a long time, I saw it as evidence of what was done to me. Now, I see it differently. It's proof of what I survived. Proof that I'm still here. Grandpa Zephyr once told me, "You don't need anyone to see your worth, Marilla. You just need to see it yourself." I spent 38 years waiting for my family to recognize me, waiting for my mother to choose me, waiting for someone to stand up and say that I mattered. I'm not waiting anymore. I matter because I say I do. I'm worthy because I've decided I am. For the first time in my life, I don't need anyone else to agree. This isn't revenge. This isn't bitterness. This is freedom. The kind of freedom you find when you finally choose yourself.